You're listening to a podcast from the Finnish Football Show.
Yep.
Yes, it's the Finnish Football Show. I'm Mark Wiltshire. We're back today, listener. We're going to be talking about the international fixtures from last week. I'm joined. We've got a big team today. I'm joined by Keke Muleri. Hi, Keke.
Terve.
By Rasmus Junila again. Welcome back, Rasmus.
Moro, and thank you.
And a very welcome return to Mr. Mark Hayton. Mark, how you doing?
Hello, yes, I'm doing good. How are you doing, Mark?
Yeah, I'm all right. Life has got busy in a good way. And we're in the middle of a kind of bit of a rush of podcasts at the moment. I think this is our third in 3 weeks, which is nice. It's good to keep the stuff coming while there's football to talk about. 2 weeks ago, I was complaining about my allergies, listener, and the good news is they've gone. The bad news is they've been replaced by trench foot because it hasn't stopped raining here for this whole week. It's doing my crust in because this is supposed to be summertime. But we're gonna look at these national team games. The Helmarit had 2 close Euro 2025 qualifiers with the Netherlands. Then we're going to switch over to the Huuhkajat and hear from Keke about his weekend-long bender in Glasgow. So, Keke, share what you can. And this is when the Huuhkajat played 2 games in a few days and provided the pre-Euro 2024 practice for Portugal and Scotland, although they did try a few new things for themselves. And then we'll finish up with an update on the manager, Markku Rive Kanerva, and his future. We've been speculating about this in recent months. So, listener, viewer, stay tuned for the end of the show, and we'll cover that as well. Right, the Helmarit had the competitive games. There's the referee's whistle. So let's talk about these games first of all. And if Tini Korpela or any of her fellow Helmarit are watching or listening to this, we have to apologise. There's 4 of us here, and we didn't see much of the first game between any 4 of us. So let's go through the facts and figures and the little bits and pieces that we've managed to pick up. So the game was on Friday the 31st of May in the Rotterdam Stadium, and it finished Netherlands 1, Finland 0, with a goal on 65 minutes for Berenstain. Looking at the highlights, it looked like a really good crowd over there. Rasmus, you know a little bit about this stadium.
It's one of the 3. As of last season, there were 3 men's top flight clubs in Rotterdam. Of course, the famous Feyenoord and Sparta Rotterdam, of which is the stadium the match was played at, called Het Kasteel. In English, translated the castle. It's the oldest football stadium in Holland, so a pretty historic place. I've been to the stadium, not to a match, but to the fan store and to have a little bit of a look around when I was visiting Rotterdam a couple of years back. So lovely stadium. I actually got a T-shirt with the stadium on the shirt. So very nice place to play football, and very passionate football city, Rotterdam in general.
And for this game, for what I saw of the highlights, like there was a good crowd in there, young female crowd. You can tell from the sound, but noisy and really into the game. And it seems to me that it was a game. Well, one thing I really struggle with the women's football generally is getting stats. like being able to look at the game after and see the possession stats and things like that, just to give you a bit of a feeling for how the game went. It's not easy to find that stuff, even on the magic UEFA app and website. Have you got something, Keke?
Yeah, I mean, I generally follow the games that I can't watch live on FOTMob. Big shout out to FOTMob. We would love some sponsorship from you guys. Yeah, like goal alerts, all that sort of business. And yeah, they put the possession stats at more quite even actually, 60% for the Netherlands and a big 40% for Finland. And I think from what I did see of the game. I think that was sort of reflected it. We did sort of preview this double header, and we did say that if the Helmarit were able to come away from Holland with a draw, that'd be sort of a decent result for us. And I think if we look at the stats and especially that possession stat, I think obviously a 1-0 defeat, but I think it was quite narrow in the end.
Yeah, I think 1-0 was decent. We've talked about this a couple of times, Keke, that before expectations before the competition, and then after that Norway game going down to 4 goals, that was it was a bit nerve-wracking, but the Helmet have really turned it around since, and it looked like in the first 15 minutes it was quite even. We were pushing, we made a few chances without maybe really testing the keeper, and then as the game wore on, you could see that more and more of the attempts on goal were coming from the Netherlands, and Tini Korpela had a really good game, several saves from long range, quite a few from in and around the box as well. The Netherlands hit the bar twice, and I guess it was building and building and building, and then in the 65th minute came this goal, and it was a goal from a corner that went all the way past the far post. It wasn't headed. It kind of fell at the foot of one of the Netherlands forwards, who played it back into the box. It went to Berenstain, who drove it through a forest of legs and past Tinney into the goal for the only goal of the game. And when I actually had to pause the video and count, but at that moment all 11 Helmarit players were in their own penalty box, and yet still the ball bounced from one forward to the other, who drove it home. So that's got to be disappointing. But we didn't give up, and we kept going, and towards the end of the match, the last sort of 10 minutes or so, created several, well, if not clear chances, they were more than half chances, and just couldn't quite get it past the keeper. And I think ordinarily a 1-0 away defeat would be creditable, but we're fast running out of games to get the points that we need to try and get somewhere.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the women's team could be pretty, I think, disappointed. I mean, while Holland had, the edge in the possession, they had more chances. A lot of the chances, as you said, were sort of from distance and a couple of crosses, and they were quite compact for the majority of the game. So I think the ladies had sort of set out their stall to just, sit deep, defend throughout, and maybe try to nick a goal on the break. And then to lose the goal the way they did, it's unlucky. I mean, they don't win the first header cleanly as a player. Yeah, like you said, there's 11 blue shirts in the box, and we still can't pick up the runner. And I mean, it's a strong finish from around the penalty spot, and you feel anybody that gets a half a yard of space at that from that distance, they're going to stick it away. So I think is it Marco Salaranta who's in charge now? He can be pretty disappointed. It looked like he went there to get a point and didn't, and just a momentary lapse has cost him.
So they took that then into the return fixture, the return of the double header, just a few days later. This one played at Tammela Stadion in Tampere. We know you know it, Rasmus. Were you at that game?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay.
And I was lucky enough to be invited is a bit much, but I got a ticket to go to the VIP section as a guest of Palloliitto, and got pretty much the best seats in the ground. So yeah, was lucky enough to be there, and the atmosphere was great around the whole stadium. There was a small section of the SMJK bunch in one corner in the end where there's in Veikkausliiga matches the Ilves end, but there was, I think, 50 of them. Can't be accurate, but they made good noise.
Let's give a shout out to Seppo, who was on the last episode with us, who was there, one of that crowd making that noise. So good job, Seppo.
Yeah, and the noise caught on to pretty much the whole stadium at best. And I've been to almost everyone except one Ilves matches at the Tammela Stadium, and I think that was the best atmosphere I've witnessed myself, just because the whole crowd got into the clapping and shouting Suomi and all of that. So the atmosphere was really great at the match, and you could tell the national team was playing. It was the first ever sold out Helmarit match, so historic day and a really good football match. I have to say, Finland played well, and they looked the part against the Netherlands. So I think they could have taken something out of the game easily, but yeah, still got to see a strange goal from the Netherlands and a really great goal from Finland. So a good occasion.
Yeah, I noticed that Finland seemed to be carrying the game really to the Netherlands. They were like, okay, we're home. We've got an 8,000 crowd behind us. We're taking the game forward. I've gone back into FOTMob Keke and I've had a look, and the possession stats are not that much different. It's like 55% to Netherlands and 45 to Finland, but it felt like we had more of the ball.
Yeah, I think they would have been. I saw much more of this match, and I think the girls would have been bolstered by that performance away in Rotterdam. You know, as we said, it was a narrow defeat. The goal did come from that momentary lapse in concentration and that shot through a crowded box. And yeah, momentary lapse of concentration is what really cost us in this game as well. I mean, no one wants to sit here and have a go at our mate Tinny. You know, she's an absolute legend. And I think after the match, in the days that came after the match, she took to social media to sort of apologise for her mistake. But you know, during the game, she obviously, like the professional she is, she managed to just park it, put it behind her, get on with the rest of the match. But I think it did weigh a little bit on her shoulders afterwards. But, you know, every professional at the highest level makes the odd error. And I think, yeah, that's just a bad luck, unfortunately. But yeah,
it's this modern day disease, and I blame Pep Guardiola completely. And I will temper my language by saying mucking around with the ball in your own box.
Yeah. I mean, let's remember, Mark, you support Wimbledon, so there is only one way, and that's
get it away from your own goal. Mark Hayton.
But yeah, Tinny's a seasoned pro. She's been at it, like she's a pair of safe hands, and it's really clearly like a change in tactics. It's the modern fad of playing out from the back, and like the defense was crazy deep when she had the ball. And I mean, yeah, it's mad to put a square ball, I think, inside the 6-yard box when Berenstein picked it up. It's looped up and she's managed to get the finish. But I can't think of a time in the last sort of 5 or 6 years when she would have played that kind of ball. You know what I mean? Under different coaches. So it's clearly a choice of the coaching staff. So I don't know. I'm still not convinced by it, Mark. All this newfangled modern keeping past the ball around the back.
Put some snow on it, get it launched.
What did that do to the atmosphere, Rasmus? Did that take anything out, or did the fans just keep going?
I think the stadium kept going mostly. Obviously, it was a bit of a shock, but the team was still playing good, and I think they grew in confidence and they put that behind them pretty quickly, as you said, Dinny and the whole team. And you obviously could tell from the level of football that the Netherlands is a great team. The technical level and the tempo they could pass the ball with was obviously high, but I was impressed throughout the match that how Finland kept up with the tempo, and they could also pass pretty quickly. They struggled technically at times. The ball didn't quite stick with them. It was the case of 2 or 3 good actions and then a misplaced pass, and then you have to get the ball back. That was the case for much of the first half. But I think the chance of Linda Sellström when she was running like half clean through on goal from the right flank, it was a good chance and it got the crowd up and going. So I think the whole team plus the crowd kept going like pretty impressively. So, and they got the reward in the second half.
Yeah, talk us through the goal, Keke, from Jutta Rantala.
Well, I mean, yeah, it was. I've watched quite a bit of Jutta this season. Obviously, she's playing in WSL in Leicester City, and yeah, I've seen her score these sort of bangers all season. Really, yeah, ball come. I think it was Ria Erling who put her through, passed the ball to her, and just sort of lifted it in like, and everyone went bananas. It was an absolute cracker. You know what I mean? It's and as I say, we've seen so many of those come off of Jutta's boot. It wasn't really a surprise, really. And as Rasmus said, Finland were growing into the game, so I think not really a shock, and well deserved.
And the upshot of this is that there's 3 points difference between Netherlands and Finland. I mean, the other games in the group finished. Italy won, Norway won, Norway nil, Italy nil. That it couldn't be any closer. The only difference is that one goal between Netherlands and Finland on that Friday, and that's made all the difference in the points. So currently, all teams played 4. Netherlands are top with 7 points. Norway are second with 5 points. Italy fourth with 5 points. Norway benefiting from the 4 goals they put past Finland, and Finland are bottom with 4 points. It's tight. Win one of those next games, it could end up in second place heading into the final game. It really is all to play for, and those final games happen 12th and 16th of July. So on the 12th, Finland play Norway at home, and then a few days later on the 16th, Italy away. And from the way this group's gone, we've got as good a chance of winning both and ending up on 10 points as losing both and ending up where we are on 4 points still.
I was just going to say, I think the home game is in Turku, is it not? So I'm sure they'll be expecting another decent crowd down there at is it Veritas Stadium? Yeah, so I'm sure they'll be expecting another good crowd to cheer them on. Obviously, we got that that nasty result against Norway that kicked off the campaign, so we'll be looking looking for some revenge. You never know.
Definitely want a bit of revenge, and we will be here to cover that in July. I think this is just around the time that my summer holiday is about to start, so I might even have time to watch it properly and make sure we get all the details from both the games. But good that you were in the stadium for one of them, Rasmus. That brings a nice bit of flavour from the game as well. And we'll come back to the Helmarit in the middle of July. But talking about being in the stadium, let's move to the Huuhkajat games. We'll do it a little bit out of order. Obviously, the first game was Portugal away, but let's break up all this football talk by hearing about Keke's capers. Oh, there's a feature for the future.
Yeah.
So,
You want to
I
hear about
want,
the inside of Scottish pubs, do you?
I want to hear. I want to hear about your weekend, Keke. And if you can remember something about the football as well, that would be
Oh,
terrific. Just before we started, I was watching the highlights, and just before the game kicked off, they panned to the Finland crowd, and there's Keke with his Seitsemän Tamminen flag, shaking it like shake it like a Polaroid picture, as
yeah.
Outcast once said.
Yeah,
Um,
I'd had a few pints of Tennant's Lager by that point, so it's getting rather excited. But no, it was
Well, I tell
a
you what
brilliant
built
week.
the excitement, Keke. Let's take it back a couple of days because on the Wednesday before the game, you were moonlighting you were seeing other podcasts behind our back while we were
Yeah,
recording here. You were recording for Scott Ball
yeah.
podcast, giving them your thoughts on the game and your favourite Finland 11 of all time. It was a good listen, actually. Good job. Well done.
Thanks. It was a joy to help out James and go on there and chat to him about all things Finnish football. But yeah, no easy task to pick your all-time favourite Huuhkajat 11. I'll tell you what, I've spent a few hours mulling over that one. But yeah, it was
And
good
then
fun.
and then you named two centre backs, and there was no Sammy Huppier to start with, and I was like, no, he hasn't forgotten him, surely. No, you salvaged it, no worries.
Of
And
course.
then on the Thursday, I got a very last minute call up to be on BBC Radio Scotland. Rich sent me a message, and then they got in touch and said, "Can you come on in 45 minutes time?" Like, okay, well, I can't prep too much. What I didn't expect was to go on there as the Finland expert and then be asked, "What do you think about Scotland's form?" To which I say, "Well, I haven't followed Scotland's games quite as closely as some of your other guests might have, and tried to turn it around. But that was very brief, kind of few minutes. But hey, friends at the BBC, we're here. You know we are, and we'll see you again in September and October, hopefully.
Yeah, that's it.
So you got on that train on Friday morning, full of the
Yeah.
joys of being an in-demand podcaster for hire.
Indeed. Yeah, yeah, nice and easy. Train from London Euston up to Glasgow. Jumped off. Glasgow was baked in sunshine, which is not what you usually expect when you visit
Yeah.
Scotland. But no, it was absolutely beautiful. Yeah, I did manage to have a spot of lunch before I started on the booze. But yeah, soon met up with my friends and the other Finnish contingent. Marko Saareks was there and Tanali was there. So yeah, met up with them, and yeah, it was just should we start drinking yet? And yeah, why not? So yeah, had a few beers. We went down to a place in the south side called the Shed, um, which is a lot bigger than a Shed. In fact, it's a big bar, and there was like obviously Scotland were in party mood because they're off to the Euros, and yeah, it was like a lot of them seeing off their team before they went off to the Euros. So there was a big pre-match party. Yeah, we were more than welcome visitors. Lots of the Scotland fans were quite intrigued by these handful of Finland fans who had invaded their little pre-match party and were happily munching on the Scotch pies that were being given out at the bar. But yeah, it was a cracking pre-match, mate. And then we walked the short distance to Hampden Park. Yeah, decent stadium. I don't know if any of you have been to Hampden, but yeah, it's a decent stadium. Lot of football history around there. Obviously, this is the redeveloped Hampden, but yeah, just a stone's throw from Cathkin Park, which is the slightly derelict ex-home of Third Lanark, but was also a venue for international fixtures back at the turn of the last century. So yeah, a lot of football
Classic place to
history.
visit when you're in that neck of the woods, eh?
Exactly that, yeah. A lot of football history around that part of Glasgow, and you've got the old remnants of the old Queens Park FC, the old Hampden. There's still bits of that floating about in the local architecture, so that's really nice to see. But yeah, made our way into the stadium. There was, I'd have to say, a handful of us Finland fans in there. There was, yeah, a few people from Finland who were living in Scotland. There was a lovely set of four brothers who all born in Finland, but had done at least half, if not more, depending on which oldest to the youngest had done their growing up in Scotland. So they had a little bit of split loyalties. Got chatting to them, and they were saying that yeah, whenever Scotland play, they're regulars at Hampden, but for this fixture, they had to be in with the Finland fans. So that was really cool. Nice to chat to them. And yeah, it was a really great atmosphere, mate. I think when the team came out, when the team was announced, there was maybe a little bit of surprise at some of the selection, but yeah, it was a little bit different to the team that played in Portugal a couple of days earlier.
Well, I think this is an important point, isn't it? Because both teams were a bit experimental.
Mix and match, yeah, bit mix and match, a bit experimental. I mean, I'd rabbited on the Scottball pod about how great Lucas Radetzky was, and he didn't feature at all. But yeah, we still had two great goalkeepers who both played really well. Joronen kept a clean sheet in the first half, and then Sinisalo with that great double save at the very end of the match. So yeah, both keepers held their heads high and did really well. And I think it was nice to see Pukki and Boyanpalo start the match together. I was sort of interested to see how that panned out. That's one that we've spoke about before. Both of them huffed and puffed, but no goals in the first half. But yeah, when the sort of changes came through and the game sort of sparked to life in the second half, obviously Chelman and Antman came in. And ultimately, they were the guys who brought the score back to 2 each. And yeah, I think over the piece, I think Scotland will probably be happy because they came out unscathed and all go off to the Euros without a defeat. And I think Finland can come away from that match without heads held high, that we didn't spoil Scotland's party, but we didn't just turn up just to get our hearts handed to us. We give it a bit of a go. So yeah, great experience, mate. Great. I'd been to Hampden previously, but it was great to see Finland play there and be there with Finland. So yeah, another away day ticked off the list.
Good job. So that's Mark. I know you got something to say. Do you want to talk about the football?
Yeah, I mean, Scotland were no great shakes. I mean, I thought, I thought we looked first off a lot better on the break, and I thought we were a lot cleaner and tidier with the ball. They pushed forward. They had a lot of the ball, but I don't think they really caused us that many troubles. And I really feel we had just a really bad 5 minutes. I feel sorry for Artur Hoskonen, who's I like him as a defender. Like he's big and he's quick. He reads the ball well. He's good in the air. He's got a bit of the Arayuri about him. I think he's got he's good, but he scored the first. It was an own goal. Robertson down the left cuts it inside. Robertson had Niskanen on toast all game. Robertson just was mucking him about. Gets inside, puts it into the corridor of uncertainty. Hoskonen's got to stick something on it, and it just loops up in. It was a bit unlucky. And then 5 minutes later, it's another sort of nothing cross to the back post. Nilo Manpad needs to do better against Shanklin. Shanklin got no change out of Väisänen or Hoskonen, so he picks up Manpad's probably not as strong, not as good in the air. And
it was an unusual looking header as well, because he was almost like facing away from the goal as he made contact with the ball and put it in.
Yeah, he was sort of running backwards to try and get it and holding off. I mean, from that position, really defensively, you need to be putting him on his backside. But yeah, I thought it was sort of unlucky defending and poor defending, and then for 5 minutes we just sort of lost our heads. But like Keke said, as soon as we made the substitutes, Scotland brought in a raft of changes. We were able to get on the front foot and then take the game to them. And I don't think, they were no great shakes. There was a win in that game for us, and we didn't set up right.
Yeah, and I'm just looking at the two teams. I think that only one player, Peltola, started both games. So not only were the teams experimental, but they were sort of not used to playing against each other as well. Let's take it back a few days to the Portugal game. Rasmus, what did you think when you saw the lineup there and some of the young and less experienced players that were playing in that game.
I was obviously delighted to see Juho Talvitie in the starting lineup, a Ilves graduate who moved on to Belgium, one of the clubs owned by the City Group, Lommel in Belgium, which he plays for at the club level. But yeah, it was nice to see him, Anssi Suhonen, Antman Peltola, really, I think a few of the names of the Finnish national team future starting in the game. But obviously, when you're playing against a team of the level of Portugal, I don't think it would have mattered that much what lineup we put out. We would have still been suffering a lot in the game, and at times it was quite brutal. I think these games, when you think of sporting wise, end of the season, there's the Euros coming up in a couple of weeks. Now, just starting this week, obviously, but those teams who play in the Euros, their priority is to keep everyone fit and healthy. So they don't go at it 100%. It's more of a practice match, a warm up for them. So these games are kind of weird. So it wasn't a huge surprise that the Finland team was also experimenting quite a bit in the match. But when you look at the statistics of the game, we didn't have a shot on goal or a shot at all until Pukki came on and had 2 shots and scored 2 goals. So that was maybe, if it was needed, it was a bit of an eye opener of the highest level of football and how far are we away from that. So we didn't really have a kick until Pukki came on.
And we had a more experienced defense for that game with Alho, Ivanov, Jensen, Niskanen, and Radetzky, all playing. But you're right. You look at that Portugal team, and they've got to be one of the favourites for the Euros. So going out there and with an experimental team and being beaten 4-2, there's no disgrace at all. I was pleased to see Urban back in the team. I think it was a tough game to come into, and probably if he's in there with the full strength midfield, with Schuller and Kamara behind him, maybe he can be that link between the midfield and the forward line. But I think playing alongside Suhonen and Peltola against the likes of Fernandez and Bernardo Silva is tough one to come back into. But those goals from Pukki, they were kind of, not only were they classic Pukki, but we've seen him go through on goal and not take those. And these 2 finishes were both really clinical.
Yeah, the Pukki goals were, I mean, like straight out of I think they're out of his highlights reel. He probably took them from a previous game. I mean, I think you can't. I mean, it is true to say that obviously Portugal will be one of the favourites, and they've got an absolute class team. With the lads we were watching it with in the pubs, we had quite a debate about. There was about 15 years ago, Finland beat Portugal 4-1. Like Mikkel Forsell scored, and I think Jonas Kolka got one. I think Litti was still playing, and that was obviously
twice.
yeah. And so it's obviously that was kind of like the golden generation of Finnish football. But when you look back at like the record against a team like Portugal, that team that we beat 4-1 had like Luis Figo in it, and it had Flavio Conceição, and it had a whole bunch of like stars. Like it was obviously a different era and a different time, but this was like a different class of football. Like we're just nowhere near. We were, I mean, so 15 years ago we were in the same league as Portugal, and now not so much. But yeah, Pukki's goals, threaded through. I love a dink. Like I love he gets through against the keeper, gives him the eyes, and then just chips it up. I mean, that makes me happy. And then he got one like straight after, and then you think all of a sudden, from being 3-0 down, in a couple of minutes, we were back in the game. Like 5 minutes, 5 minutes between the goals, and we're like, it's game on now. So we had really no right to get back into that game, but Pukki kind of opened the door for us.
I mean, you mentioned him before, Mark, but poor old Imi Niskanen didn't enjoy this match either. I don't think it was. I don't know. Was it that young Conceição was running at him like all the time? It was just like, and yeah, he. I don't think. I mean, you know, we've spoke about Helmarit and other players before who are maybe more wingers or better going forward, being used in this sort of fullback role. And yeah, I don't. You know, I'm sure he came off the pitch very tired, but I'm not sure he would have enjoyed it very much.
And it
No,
was no, go on, Mark.
I was just gonna say, yeah, it's another one. I don't know why we do this, but we take like talented wingers and we make them learn how to be like a fullback or expect them to become a fullback. I just feel sorry for the guy. He's getting he's growing up. He's getting more physically strong. He's still quick. He's still pretty good with the ball at his feet. But I mean, it's very hard to be like to cope technically with the current product of what Portugal's putting out. When you haven't been, he wasn't a defender. You know what I mean? He's only become a defender in the last couple of seasons, and you think, I mean, that's tough. That's tough for anybody.
So, what's the general, like the three of you, what's your general feeling after those two games? Is it like, they're friendlies? We played with our team, played with our formation and our lineup, and nothing to worry about. How do you feel going into the autumn games in the Nations League?
Yeah, if we're talking about just the team, the players, then I don't think anything changed after those two matches. It was good that some of them got more minutes and more experience against tough opponents. But yeah, these aren't the matches you need to win or you need to really impress in. Those are just for experience, as I see it. So we are playing for points in in the autumn when the Nations League starts. So that's what we have to set our sights on. And obviously, there's the news of Rive staying, but with a whole new coaching staff behind him and stuff like that. So I think that part is going to be really important. But regarding the team, I don't think much has changed. And of course, obviously, I'd like to always see more young Finnish players make it to the national team. We have a few really good ones in the under 21s team currently. So we just need to plug them in as soon as possible.
Mark, so you came up with the name The Revolution, and a couple of months ago you were suggesting that Roy Hodgson might be coming back. So Rasmus has just told us that Rive is staying. Where are your thoughts now?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the two games, I think it's always difficult against Portugal given where we are. I do think Scotland were there for the taking because they haven't won in ages and they just ship goals for fun. So we could have gotten something against Scotland. And if you look at the team with the way we play the same way against everybody, and you think that can't be right. And you've got guys like I look at like Ollie Antman, and you think. And we haven't solved the problem of Buki and Pohjanpalo up front. Buki and Pohjanpalo should be, linking up, playing off each other. They should be like dropping off and going to, and they still end up sort of making the same kind of runs. They're not clicking. So we've got a bunch of problems that we've had for a while that we haven't really fixed. And I think I don't know this sort of like three at the back and then changing when you got possession and then sending the fullbacks up and then having wingers play fullback who get done on like in behind. I feel like we've been trying this sort of second way of the revolution for like 4 years, and it's not worked. We're not any better, and it's just I feel quite frustrated. I mean, if we bring in new coaches and that translates into a change in style, a change in system, different approaches, then I'll be happy. But I've got a bad feeling that like we're just going to have this sort of three at the back mediocrity for a couple of seasons. So I don't know. I think we need another revolution.
Okay, Rasmus, any thoughts about Yanni Honkavara has been suggested as one of the coaches coming in?
Yeah, and I don't know if it was almost as far as confirmed, at least according to pretty reliable sources, that it would be Honsu and Teemu Tainio joining Rive in the coaching staff. So yeah.
Keke.
Yeah, sorry, I just wanted to just go back to your original question about what have we learned over these two fixtures, and just touching on what Rasmus said there when he was talking about the Portugal game. We've learned that we have got a long way to go to get up to that standard. You know, I think the Nations League will be quite evenly matched. I mean, England will obviously be the favourites for that match, but Ireland have been struggling recently. So I'd like to think that we could take some points off of them. But with regards to Rive, I think probably the players trust Rive. I think you know, who would the other options be? We did talk about it. I mean, was it Janne Andersson, the former Sweden manager? He was mentioned. Could Palolito afford his wages? I don't know. But yeah, I think
Simo Valakari was suggested by one of us.
Indeed, I do believe that the players trust Rive, and I think they haven't. It's not like, you know, when you say players have given up or they're not playing for the manager. I do think they trust him and that they will possibly be happy to continue with him. But yeah, there's a lot of work that needs doing, and hopefully a few fresh faces in the backroom staff can bring in that new wave of freshness or new wind, new ideas that we obviously badly need. Because I mean, Portugal, you would have picked them to turn us over. The Scotland game, you know, it was two each to a team who've had some really great performances on their Euro campaign, but have struggled of late. So, did it teach us anything? A lot of Finland fans have been really calling for younger players to come through. So, you know, Rive, he's done that. He's called these players up and let some of them start, and you know, and brought some of them on. So, yeah, maybe the next revolution is coming, but with the help of those backroom guys who you guys have mentioned.
And you hear coaches say, "Oh, it's not just what they did on the pitch. I get to see them in training." And while they've clearly seen these young boys coming through the age groups, actually seeing them train and then play half a game or, you know, whatever in a full international, hopefully they take some value from that, other than just the results. Before we finish, any other comments from anyone?
I just wanted to make one more comment. You know, we all speak to a lot of people in the Finnish football fraternity, and one person close to me said, you know, if this is to be the official announcement, if Rive is going to continue, like the comment was that it just feels a bit too Finnish. This, you know, like there was all this talk about, you know, maybe Rive was going, and then we've sort of stuck it in reverse and done the safe thing, maybe. Are we being too safe? But my own comment would be, I personally think that a Finn is leading the charge, is an important thing for a Finnish national. I know we did well under Hodgson, but I think someone who understands the country, understands the culture, you know, has that link with the language. Obviously, language is becoming a bit more irrelevant now. We've got a mixture of people from backgrounds coming into the side, but you know, someone who understands the culture and can inspire on a Finnishness level, I think is important. But yeah, you know, someone did comment to me that maybe this option was a bit safe. But what were the other options?
On that, I'd think it's quite rational to keep Rive on, as the other options aren't that obvious at this stage. I don't think so, because Honsu, I think, would have been one of the options as the potential head coach. Mark mentioned Simo Valakari. He's obviously one. Toni Koskela maybe there's not a huge selection of Finnish top-level coaches in general, not working at anything close to a top level, at least. So I think this could be okay. And when you start to analyze the whole time of Rive at Huuhkajat, there was obviously the great qualification group, which we got to the Euros 2020, and the Euro tournament. Obviously, the Denmark match was one to be not to be forgotten for a bunch of reasons. Not the football, but everything else that went on that day. But since then, the whole evolution of the playing style and the football. If you look at the underlying numbers, things have got better. The previous qualification campaign, the things we are trying to do playing football, they are there, but the results haven't been. Obviously, it's a results game, but I think we've gotten better playing football, and the important part is that we try to play active, proactive football and be a bit more have a bit more variation on how we can play. Obviously, we have to defend a lot of the time in a low block or a mid block. We don't really have the players for high pressing. That would be a suicide in against most top opponents. But I think it has been steadily going forward, maybe sometimes one step forward, two steps back. But I think it's quite rational to wait and continue with Rive. If you ask me about other options as the potential head coach, I've been saying for a long time about Mika Lehkosuo and his whole staff working with the under-21s. He has the Estonian coach Gert Remmel with him, who's worked across Europe. And they also have some other very qualified staff members over there. But I think their project at the under-21s, the Pikku Huuhkajat, is still a work in progress, and the results haven't been magnificent so far. So I think maybe they need also a bit more time to grow, and maybe they can take on the Huuhkajat job eventually, but not yet.
Everyone's trying to get in and have a comment, but Mark was waving his finger first, so let's bring him back in.
Oh, I only waving in agreement. Like, I mean, Bana Lehkosuo, he was on, like, he was being groomed for the job like 5-10 years ago, and I think not 10 years ago. That's he's way younger than that, but like he was definitely in line for a while, and then I think it went. Then I think he had troubles with the under-21s, and it is true. We handle the ball better. Like we're in possession, we're really good, or at least better than we used to be. But I still think we're not creating chances. Like we don't create a lot of chances per game, and in the sort of like Leicester City Revolution 1.0, when we had like a 4-4-2 narrow, we played narrow rather than wide, and we came up through sort of like wide forwards. Then we actually did create a fair amount of chances, although we were a lot more direct in the play. We didn't sit with the ball. We actually were pretty happy without the ball. So I don't know. It feels like we're better because we're getting better with the ball, but I don't know. Like we're not. We're missing a bit of punch from my side.
Keke, would you like the final say on this?
No, not really. No, the only thing that I want to chuck in the mix. I mean, we've all got to get behind whoever it is, and we're pretty sure that it is Rive and a couple of guys coming in to give him a hand. So we've got to get behind those guys. I mean, we want to succeed. They want to succeed. I'm sure they do. So we've just got to keep on singing and keep on getting behind the team, no matter what happens. But yeah, just my final thought was, former captain Tim Sparvis over there in Prague doing his apprenticeship at the Sparta Prague. I think he's graduated to the B team now. He was with the youngsters, but I think he's with the B team now. Like, do we see him as one for the future? Like, would there be any potential in bringing him in early, or do we want to wait and see how he pans out at a club side before making that sort of change? But he's got to be one on that sort of list to one day get a place in the Huuhkajat dugout. But yeah, that was just my final thought for the pod, mate.
Yeah, that's a really interesting shout. Just to respond quickly, but it's an interesting coaching career to be had by Tim Sparv potentially, as he's got into a big European club to work at this stage of his coaching career. That's pretty rare for a Finnish coach. So that could be one for the future, but it's also pretty rare that a coach that young goes into the national team, international football. So he might want to build up his career for a few years before that. But yeah, that's a very interesting coaching path to follow.
Okay, Mark put his thumb up that time, so that one I know was definitely in agreement rather than wanting to say something else. So I think, gents, that's probably a good time to draw things to a close. Keke, thank you for joining.
Kiitos, moro.
Rasmus, good to see you too. Thanks for joining us.
Cheers.
And Mark, I guess that you'll be back for the Huuhkajat games in the autumn, and the rest of us will get together in the summer to talk through the Veikkausliiga. So for now, thanks for joining.
Thanks very much.
And listener, until the next episode of the Finnish Football Show, thanks for listening. Goodbye. You've been listening to the Finnish Football Show. You can find us online at finishfootballshow.com. Remember to subscribe to the show wherever you're listening or watching. You can follow the Finnish Football Show page and group on Facebook and also on Instagram. Escape to Suomi on Twitter is now Finnish Football Show on X. And you will find us on Blue Sky at Finnish Football Pod. See the links in the episode description, along with the links to the Finnish Football Show merch stores.